Hi, Graham Vincent, Violinmaker and musician. You've probably just bought an old plane off eBay, much like I have. So I'm going to open this up, we're going to have a look at it, and we're going to talk about what to do with it, and then I'm going to do that. So hopefully I'll take you through all the steps of actually sort of putting back into service an old record plane. In this case, record plane, but obviously Stanley, record, whatever. Right, what we got then? Let's have a quick look and see what we've got. What's the best way to open this thing? Aha, there we go. Quite an old record plane. Rosewood handles, early frog style. Nice, very happy with that. That, I think, it's got some pitting on the base. It's got it's got a bit of wear on it, but it's got that good quality casting that the earlier ones kind of had in abundance. Let's have a bit more of a look at it. Oh, that's interesting. So the fact that that's a rotating wheel there shows that that's a pretty early one. So this is probably, because of the rosewood handles, and this is probably before the Second World War. So this is when they were, the target market was very much professional users rather than DIY. So yeah, it's gonna be good quality. Obviously you have to hope that the blade hasn't been destroyed by overheating or anything, but no, I'd say this looks like a good candidate for turning into a nice plane. First things I'm going to do, I'm going to take it more or less to bits, I think, clean up the handles and so on, and generally talk you through it from there. What am I trying to do here? This isn't a restoration video. I'm not turning this into a most beautiful sort of collector's item. What I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I've got a plane which I can use in my workshop, which works really nicely. So I am going to clean it up a bit. So basically what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to dismantle it and have a look at the various components, clean everything, just make sure all the screws and everything are working properly, sharpen it properly, set it up, and explain what I'm doing as I go. So here we go. This might be one of those things where the geometry says you have to put the handle on and then put the rod down through. So not being able to take the rod out might mean that I can't safely take the handle off. So perhaps I won't take this handle off then. I can do everything I was going to do without taking it off, although it's not quite as nice a way of doing it. Right, clean it up. I'm going to use some acetone and a cloth. I got some extraction for the fumes. I just have a bathroom extractor hooked up to a pipe for this sort of thing in the workshop. Previous experience tells me that the acetone won't touch the varnish on these, but I will only do it very lightly to start off with, just to be double sure that that's the case on this one as well. What I'm trying to do is just clean up some of the paint and crap off it, and I'm also going to be cleaning in around there as well. So, got my acetone. I guess it's just a personal thing. I don't like to see paint on these handles. That's the rear handle. What do they call it? Tote, is it? They call it? I can't remember now. Nice. The front one's got, well, there's no paint on it, but it's covered in all sorts of rubbish. So. Wipe it over like that, and then give the actual plane a quick clean over as well. Like I say, it's not my intention to restore this as such. It's my intention to make it work nicely and be a pleasant tool to have in the workshop. So I'm being careful not to damage the original paint. I'm being careful not to remove varnish. So I mean, I'm not doing anything which is irreversible, which will stop this being restored in the future by someone who wants to do so. But what I am doing is just getting it working for me. Right, that's good. Next stage, clean up some of the other bits and pieces. I'm not going to take this to bits completely. I'll just give this a light clean. A little more than that, making sure the mating surfaces are clean and smooth. If they weren't, then I would be going to town a little bit more and cleaning them more than that. I finished with the acetone. I got rid of that. The extraction can go. The acetone soaked rag has been moved because I don't want to poison myself. In terms of making this work, the next thing to do is actually to flatten the sole, to make sure that's flat and smooth. I'm not going to worry about whether these are square to that. I mean, this is a smoothing plane primarily. I will be using it as a smoothing plane. I don't use this size of plane really on its side, and if I do, it's only for a rough squaring operation, so you know it's going to be close enough regardless. So yeah, next stage, flat slab of stone with some paper on it, and just flatten this off. Got my granite slab, got tiny bit of water just to stick the paper down effectively. I've only got P600, that's the coarsest I've got in the workshop at the moment, so I'm hoping this doesn't need much flattening, otherwise I've really set myself up for a lot of work. So let's see what we got. Well, straight away you can see that it's taking something off here, 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 and here as well. So I don't think it's that far off flat, which is good. So let's progress a little bit with the P600. And, I mean, I might swap to a diamond stone if I really need to do something coarser than this. Yeah, it's taking some off here, here, here. I would say this has actually been kept in pretty good condition over the years, so we'll carry on with this for a while. Considering this probably hasn't been done for a long time on this plane, that looks pretty flat. Now, a lot of you are going to be saying, well, you should be doing it with all this assembly in place because that will alter the shape of the sole, and it probably does very slightly, but in my experience, not really sufficient to worry. If it was a jointing plane, I would, but for this little smoothing plane, I think the deformation, the change is only very, very minuscule. Well, I hope you can see that that is taking it off uniformly virtually everywhere. So I'm only going to do about another minute's worth on this, and I think that will do it. Yeah, that'll do. I mean, I think I've got away lightly with this, very lightly. But I mean, the approach is exactly the same. If it did need more work, you just have to do more work. I will just go over the sides on that, not with a view to squaring them up, but just to clean them up so they have a similar look to the sole. You'll notice I'm working on a piece of cardboard. This is a messy job, this part of it, so I'd rather not get my workbench absolutely filthy. So yeah, I'm just protecting it with a bit of card. Do you know what? I've just remembered I've got a little brass brush, a little brass wire brush, a very fine one as well, which I can just use it to clean up a little bit more. And this won't even take the paint off, but it'll just take the last bits of crud. That's better. I was feeling slightly dissatisfied with the level of cleaning. That's much better. Right, how are we doing? So, start putting this back together. I'm going to put this assembly back in, but first of all I'm just going to pop a tiny bit of oil on here and a tiny bit in there, tiny bit in there. And I'm going to dry most of that off there, because obviously you want it to be lubricated, but at the same time you don't want it to be sticking dust everywhere in a big mess. You don't want so much oil everywhere that you get any on your work at all. It's really quite important. This isn't a sort of a regular service. You wouldn't go oiling everything all the time. It's just, this is a first time in the workshop with this particular plane for me. It's like its induction process, if you like. That makes sense. Me making sure I've got a tool that works. This fork goes over the slot on that, obviously, like so. You can see that. And you use that to, it gives you some adjustment basically with the position of this. So let's start with it where it was, and I might need to adjust that later. I will just polish these just because I like it like that. Happy with what we got so far. Next is sharpening the blade. Fairly standard approach, but I mean, obviously this time, the first time I'll be doing it, I've got to take it probably a little bit further than I would generally have to on a regular basis. It's interesting to see how far forward the blade was set from the cap iron. This can't have been working terribly well when it was last used. saves you kind of chewing these up, which you often see, like on this one. A lot of stuff underneath the cap iron, which means it was being forced underneath, which means it's not seating properly. So we'll have to sharpen that so that the edge kind of is really firmly down at the front. It's in a bit of a sorry state, isn't it? Let's see what the back of the blade's like. It's fairly flat, actually, surprisingly so. I reckon that this, for the best part of its life, has been used very carefully and looked after very well, and then it's kind of ended up on a hobbyist, you know, or DIYer's shelf for a while, and they've not used it much. I think they've kind of made one or two minor attempts at sharpening and adjusting, but they haven't really done much. I suspect it hasn't been used properly in 25, 30 years or something. But the fundamentals of this plane are pretty good and pretty well adjusted, I would say, which is nice. And I will actually just, it doesn't need to be done, but I'm just going to just clean that face a little bit, just for the hell of it. Right, I'm going to go through my normal sharpening procedure. I'll probably speed through it. I'm going to swap over to some diamond stones. I'm going to use a honing guide, and I'm going to put a 25 and 30 degree, or 25 honing angle, but a 25 degree grinding angle, 30 degree honing angle on this. This obviously hasn't been touching all the way along the front, only in certain places. So what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm just taking off any large bumps on this bit. That, if you lay it down there, you can see that projects beyond there. So what I'm then going to do is do that a few times until I can see, I don't know if you can see that, until I can see that it's sort of new and shiny all the way along, and then I know that that will be seated against the face of the blade. This isn't something you have to do every time you sharpen it. Right, that's looking really good. When you're putting these back on, even though the hole to put this through is at the front, don't be tempted to put it on like that, because you were dragging the cutting edge over this. Always put them on like that, slide it along, then turn that. Now, that might seem, to those of you who do it like that already, like such an obvious thing to say, but I have seen people not doing that. Okay, so we're getting very close to it being done. Does this need a clean? I might just pop that over the wheel. getting very close to the moment of truth. I'm just going to clean up, and then we'll get a piece of timber out and give it a go. Okay, so what have we done? I mean, we've taken fundamentally a very nice plane, but one that really needed a bit of fettling and cleaning. I've cleaned it up. A lot of what I've done has just been to make me feel happy with it. That is to say, it's nice and clean. It's looks lovely. There's no crud anywhere. But the important part of what we've done is we've flattened the sole. We've made the blade really sharp. We've checked everything's working. We've also got the cap iron sitting properly against the blade, which it wasn't. That cap iron not sitting properly on the blade is enough to make a plane like this really not work very well at all. So even just that, and certainly flattening the sole, will really bring this into a fine state of repair. So I've also got another plane of mine, which is pretty much exactly the same. I'm now going to test this. So here we go. So I'm using a bit of rippled ash, which is hard and it rips up easily, so it's a pretty hard test for any plane, but this is the sort of stuff that I will be using it on, so it needs to work on this sort of thing. So first of all, the plane that I'm familiar with, I'm setting it so I can see literally just a hairline. Obviously this piece is quite dished. Yeah, we can feel it. So let me just flatten that up more or less with this one. It's taken it about halfway, I think, so it's still not completely flat. Right, let's give it a whirl. What's it like? Oh yes. As I say, this is a really difficult wood to plane. And that's making a grand job of it. Very happy with that. So there we go. An absolute beautiful plane. It cost me, I think it was, including postage, it was about £23, which was an absolute bargain. You don't normally get ones with rosewood handles for quite that lower price, but those bargains are still out there to be had. That is going to be a core part of my toolkit from now on. It will replace one that I had which had beech handles on it, which was a lovely plane, but I just love this one. Nice. If you enjoy this sort of content, yeah, like and subscribe. I'm a violin maker, but I do lots of tool stuff as well, so you'll get to see the odd thing that you like will pop up. Cheers folks, bye.